It feels like Nick Khan, who I think his first title with the company was Chief Revenue Officer. Of course, we know now he's helping run the whole shooting match. But my man has figured out how to bring in revenue, and it feels like he's discovered the key to that, the shortcut to that financial success and pumping that stock price up is work licensing deals and work sponsorship deals. You take a look at the amount of sponsorship revenue that they're bringing in now versus pre-Nick Khan. It's unbelievable, especially from a pay-per-view and premium line of live event and just sort of in-program marketing. I want to be clear, those are dollars that goes directly to WWE. You know, if they're buying a commercial on a channel, that's one thing. But if it's inside the programming, like you would see, you know, at a pay-per-view, that's all just straight profit for WWE. Not only that, but as we know, he's worked the deal out with Fanatics. And so they're handling all of the WWE's merch. For years and years, they had a whole department. He just made a deal for that. He made a similar deal for Peacock because 10 years ago this month, WWE launched their own network. And or maybe that was 11 years at this month. Whatever. The point is,
yep,
the network has been sunset effectively here in the United States. But now this Netflix deal feels like it's going to sunset the entire network globally. And if you recall, Jeff, the scuttlebutt was George and Michelle, Barrios and Wilson, they were the leadership group in WWE. And I guess they opposed Vince's vision for throw everything on the network, including the pay-per-views, very specifically including WrestleMania, because there was discussion, hey, maybe the pay-per-views like Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, and WrestleMania, they won't be on the network. You'll still have to buy those as a traditional pay-per-view. And then I read other discussions. Well, maybe they'll all be on the network except not WrestleMania. Or maybe we'll include just WrestleMania the first year. Whatever the decision, it was clear that they all stayed except for George and Michelle. The pay-per-views were on the network. George and Michelle were out. Here comes Nick Khan, and Nick cuts a different deal. We're sort of moving away from Peacock or from the network, and we're going to instead just get a guaranteed amount of money from Peacock. And if you're trying to be in the stock game, Jeff, that makes a lot of sense because now you can guarantee your income. You're not hoping we can perform and hoping we can sell pay-per-views and hoping we can, you know, get subscriptions up on our own and sort of charting our own course. Now, whether interest is up, interest is down, subscriptions are up, subscriptions are down, revenue's the same. That's what Wall Street wants to see. Would you agree with that?
Comfort.
Yes.
But
mitigated risk.
Mitigated risk. That's the fancy term, but the comfort zone. But what, you know, you're a Succession fan. I was a Succession fan, but any streaming show that comes out now, they hope it's a hit. And if it's a hit, it's going to have a shelf life. You know, if it's a Sopranos, it's a 20-year shelf life. But for the shows that are coming out now, you hope it's a hit, and you can kind of look on a graph that, okay, this is the number. And if it gets hot, it's going to go here. But there's so many shows that just die. I mean, complete out. When you look at WWE, I'm going back to the sponsorship. That's another thing that Netflix looks at and says, oh, you're going to bring these sponsors. Now, how's that deal cut, Conrad? I don't want to keep pinging it back for you, but with you know, the sponsorship, and it's all heading toward that, is that still going to be, what's the split there? I don't know, but
you put that on SmackDown, Daddy.
Say that again now.
I mean, you know, SmackDown's going to USA.
Yeah.
So I'm saying you just load up all your sponsorship stuff with, I thought what you were saying is, does that affect the Netflix deal?
I don't know. That what I'm saying is that we'll call it 10 million every Monday they get to go pull that cash register. It is amazing. But so you just made kind of the comment, Fanatics broker that out. They're broken out, you know, here's sponsorship. Well, the word pay-per-view was, man, it was without question what WWE or WWF, WWE, WCW, it's what the world, when Eric went from 4 to 12, it was, let's go get more pay-per-view money. Let's go get pay-per-view money. That world changed in the WWE vernacular to premium live event. That's exactly how there is no more pay-per-view. And yeah, I'm sure they have some in spots around the world, and they're not, but for the most
This
part,
will change that, Jeff.
huh?
I think this changes that, because my understanding is their pay-per-views internationally will be on Netflix.
That's what I'm saying is
Yeah.
pay-per-views gone.
Officially, there's no more pay-per-view in WWE.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You're cleaning my mess of words up. That's kind of what I'm saying is the word pay-per-view really is scratch from
Yes.
the WWE ledger.
Yeah.
Completely, which is, man, that is a game changer. On the flip side, does Netflix have another do they have another product that oh my gosh, first week of April we're going to get however many people watching our streaming network at the same time live? I don't know. When is the first premium live event on Netflix?
Well, you got to think it's going to be January of 2025. So I assume the Royal Rumble will be the first international, and I don't know how that really affects the Peacock deal. Are we still going to domestically here? Will we still watch those on Peacock? At least for a bit.
Yeah. Do you know, is that been clarified?
I don't know that it has, but what has been discussed is that there's this hangover period, October to January, where Raw will stop airing USA on USA in October. And we know it will start on Netflix in January. Where does it go in the meantime?
YouTube.
That's what you think?
The world's largest network and sell sponsorships for 90 days. I mean, I don't know. Did you and Eric talk about that? Because to me, I immediately thought, wow, what an opportunity. I mean,
I think somebody is definitely going to make it an opportunity. I don't know exactly what it is, but there is a lot of money to be made there in those 3 or 4 months for a handful of people, for sure.
That to me would be your YouTube play.
Let's real quick, off the top of our head, we know for sure the Netflix deal is 500 million, right?
Yep.
And we know what the value of the new Raw to USA. I mean, you saw or not Raw, but SmackDown to USA. So you got those guarantees, plus you got the CW for NXT, plus you've still got a little bit of time left on the Peacock deal. That's not counting what's in Fanatics. We're talking well over $1 billion guaranteed revenue. WWE's business has never been stronger than it is right freaking now.
And I think you're forgetting the over 100 million on 2 shows in Saudi.
There you go. I mean, when you really add it up, you're talking well over $1 billion that they've got guaranteed before they load one truck. I mean, sell one ticket.
So in your Google machine that you're so fast with, what is UFC's guaranteed television rights deal?
I don't know the answer to that. That's a great question, though. Meanwhile, UFC is eyeing a new broadcast rights deal in 2024, with the current ESPN deal expiring in 2025. So yeah, it looks like there's going to be another opportunity there.
I'd say Ari's shaking and moving as we speak.
There is no doubt that, man, you want to talk about just the effects of this last week on TKO and Ari. We got to talk about all that. One of the things that they did besides, I did want to ask you about this. It felt like the network thing. This feels like we're throwing in the flag there. And for a long time, I think, well, let's just give a full peek behind the curtain. The entire time, Vince McMahon, who most people consider to be one of the true pioneers of pay-per-view. Would you agree with that?
No question. I truly don't even think there's a distant second.
Yes, he's number one by far. So when he did an about face with the WWE network and said, we're done with that, now we're doing this, a lot of people, like Dave Meltzer, said it's too early. The world's not ready for this. It's too early. And we saw that other wrestling companies like Impact and certainly AEW now, they're still doing the pay-per-view model, but he elected to do it this way. And a lot of people felt like he was doing something that the UFC had done, where the UFC was doing their own app and you sign up for this subscription service. And of course, they had done it eventually a deal with ESPN, and now it's on ESPN Plus. But people felt like at the time this was real innovation and a departure. And I just want to explain the business side of that. And I know you weren't privy to all the pay-per-view deals that Vince cut over the years, but just the quick and dirty math. If he had a $40 pay-per-view, it was $39.95. We'll round up the nickel, call it $40. How much would WWE receive if they sold a viewer on spending $40 to watch their pay-per-view?
The simplistic term, if it's a cable buy,
yeah,
$20, you live in Huntsville, a $40 buy, $20 stays right there in Huntsville at the local cable company. $10 goes to In Demand, the clearinghouse, if you will, the point person that is owned by multiple cable companies, and they're kind of the back end administrator, marketer, blah, 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 blah. And then you get the remaining 40%. So whatever, $18, whatever it is, you get 40. It's a 50, 10, 40 split. Direct and dish can be a little bit different, but it's roughly 60-40. Sometimes they're going to kind of throw in there 65-35 for an upstart. And that's the thing. WWE outgrew the pay-per-view business.
They did.
It's not that they said, no more, because look, AEW is living, breathing proof that the pay-per-view model is very lucrative. And it is, to me, the growth, the stage of growth that any company is in. It's to me, it's just that simple. The stage of growth. WWE got to a point where they outgrew it. In a sense, how can we maximize the revenue? And also what you just said, when you're publicly traded, folks that are going to invest in your company on stocks, they won't guaranteed deal. So,
yeah, nobody wants to lose money. Nobody buys a stock hoping it goes down.
No.
They
volatility.
Yeah, because short sellers, yes.
Yes.
The reason I was bringing up the network again, though, is this feels like a bit of a paradigm shift, because they were moving away from the pay-per-view model with the idea being we wouldn't have to share any of that revenue, guys.
Yep.
So no longer, I know you said 40%. Let's make it easy for our math and call it 50%, $20. If we make a sale for $40, we should get the $40.
Yeah, and your business can be cut in half and you make the same revenue.
That's it. But if we stay at the same level, we'll make twice the money. Now, of course, we know we're going to have some overhead. So they started to add some staff, and they also thought, hey, we'll lower the price. So instead of it being what you would pay a month for a pay-per-view, we'll make it more affordable. So fans everywhere will be able to participate and see all of the shows. I think George and Michelle felt like, yeah, but we still need to hold back perhaps Royal Rumble, perhaps SummerSlam, but certainly WrestleMania. We know that didn't happen. So as a result, the subscriber base never really reached where they wanted. I think there was lots of whispers and rumor and innuendo about, hey, they need 2 million here, or they hope for this many million there. And they never quite hit those numbers. So this feels like the network is done. And what I find so fascinating about this, Jeff, is like, think back a few years ago when people were talking about bullshit NFTs and all that sort of stuff, the digital age that we're in and the blockchain and blah, blah, blah. People were convinced. I was talking to people who were convinced that the people who are going to make the most money during this are not necessarily those who are buying and trading NFTs. But if you have the delivery system, the platform, we'll call it the eBay, we'll call it the PayPal. If you could be the middleman on all of those transactions, said differently, Vince wanted to cut out the middleman. He wanted to go straight to the consumer. And now it feels like WWE is no longer interested in not only owning the content and the delivery system, they'd rather own the content and just license everything out and get guarantees and leave that to someone else. That is a real paradigm shift within WWE. And it makes me wonder because for whatever reason, WWE's been the leader. I shouldn't say for whatever reason. Proven success has made them the leader. So New Japan has a streaming app. Impact has a streaming app. There's lots of other wrestling streaming apps out there. And there's been discussion over the years we've read, hey, will AEW do one? Because people were seeing WWE was. Now it feels like, boy, that was a total about face there. Do you think that changes the way people perceive wrestling and owning the delivery mechanism?
Boy, as you would say, there is an awful lot to unpack here.
Yes.
And the reason I say that is that in 2024, the landscape of all of entertainment, I mean, we're talking big blockbuster movie, just the movie theater's different. The television shows, you know, our boy Paul Walterhausen. No, Paul, Paul Walterhauser, that show, I know it's a little late, but he won his award, and hats off to him. Just, I'll call it mainstream entertainment is consumed by, I mean, you think about ABC, CBS, and NBC. Oh, then Fox came along. And then the basic cable came along. And then there's 300 or 400 channels that come along. Now there's Apple, Amazon Prime. I mean, just there's so many more points of distribution, and I'm not even throwing in there YouTube. And they're, I mean, it's just, it's amazing where they're headed, and NFL, how they distribute all that. Man, I'm jumbling everything. But Conrad, give me your specific question, because there's so many things that go through my mind that at the end of the day, it's not just the WWE. It is, they are experts in creating professional wrestling content.
Yes.
And that niche bubble is the business they're in, and they just print money off of that. They're no longer in the t-shirt making business. They're no longer in, go down the entire list of, I mean, just everything. They produce professional wrestling content at its core. And they, if there's one thing Nick Khan has done, I would say, Conrad, and maybe this is a point of discussion, me and you can chat back and forth. He has laser focused just that. We produce wrestling content, and that's how we're going to make our money, and throw everything out move everything out of house.
They became specialists instead of them being, the practitioner at your local doc in a box, as we like to call it, a walk-in clinic. Now they're a brain surgeon. They've gotten very specific with their wrestling content, and I think that's the reason they're more profitable. They're trying less stuff, right?
When you look at Fanatics, just that example, and on LinkedIn, you see different guys, moving jobs, and congrats and this and that. It's amazing how there's several folks that were executives and mid-management at WWE in merchandising, and now they're same job description. They're just at Fanatics. And man, to me, again, I'm going to go back. I'm a wrestling guy, obviously, but all forms of entertainment, the laser focus that they've put on, there's a lot to learn from that, to me, a whole lot to learn from that, in that as a third generation promoter, really just laser focus on creating that content. That's the way to go across the board.